Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Srimad Bhagavatam overview class. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuronmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namah Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining in. So we are discussing from the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on fifth chapter. So yesterday we discussed how when King Nabhi, he prayed for the sun, and Supreme Lord he appeared and he gave benediction that you will have a son because, and he said you have asked for a son similar to me, but there is nobody equal or similar to me, so I'll become your son. So Supreme Lord became the son of Nabhi and he appeared as Rishabhadev. And then Rishabhadev was a incarnation of Supreme Lord himself. He had all the wonderful qualities. And then he married to Meru Devi. He married to Jayanti, the daughter of Indra, and he begot 100 sons. And of these 100 sons, we saw yesterday that 10 became Kshatriyas, 9 became Mahabhagavatas, they were called as Naviyogendras, and the remaining became well qualified Brahmanas. So then, yesterday we discussed in the last that Rishabdev once was touring to Brahmavarta along with all his 100 sons, and there in an assembly he gave teachings to all his sons. So this chapter is a very, very important chapter, and many of the verses which will come in this chapter, they are often quoted by Srila Prabhupada. And in this chapter, you'll find that how Rishabdev gave instructions of bhakti to his own sons and all the citizens. And then, after giving all the instructions, Rishabdev made Bharata, the eldest sons, as the king of the whole Bharatavarsha. And then he left for the forest and he behaved like a avadhuta or a dumb man. So that's all we'll discuss today. So this is the first verse where Rishabdev is giving instruction, very famous verse, So in order to establish the Bhakti Yoga, Rishabdev first describes that material enjoyment should not be practiced as the goal of life. And this beautiful verse where he says, Nayam deho deh bhajam niloke kashtan kaman arhati vid bhujami tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam shuddhed yasmad brahma saukhyam tvanantam. So Rishabdev is saying, Na ayam deha bhajam niloke. Deha bhaja means of all the embodied beings, one who has been awarded this nriloke. Nriloke means the human form of life. So one who is awarded this human form of life, one should not endeavor for sense gratification. Kaman. One should not work very hard. Kashtan kaman. He's saying one should not endeavor for sense gratification, because arhati vid bhujamiye. Sense gratification is available even for a dog or a hog who eats stool. So that is the theme which comes in many places in Srimad Bhagavatam. In one of the other places, Bhagavatam describes that one should not endeavor for sense gratification because it is available even in the heavenly planets and even in the lower planetary systems. So therefore, what one should do? Tapo divyam putraka. One should do tapasya. One should engage in austerities and penance. Why? Yena sattvam shuddhyet. Only to purify the existence. Because by this activity of purification, one's heart will be purified, and then the result will be Brahma Saukhyam tu Anantam. He will attain a Brahma Sukha, eternal, blissful, transcendental life, which is forever. And Prabhupada, he has quoted this verse many times in his Bhagavatam classes, many of the classes. So this is one of the very, very important verses which you have to understand. Srila Prabhupada quoted it many times. People in this world, they are just wasting their life for things which are available anyways. Nidraya riyate naktam vyavayena cha vavayah divacha arthe hayarajan kutumba bharanenva. People in this world, they spend their day in earning money and they spend their night either sleeping or enjoying sex life. So therefore, Prabhupada tells that in the purport he writes that Rishabdev is telling his sons about the importance of human form of life. And human life is meant for voluntarily accepting the suffering. Austerities, why? Not for material gain. In another purport, Prabhupada says that many politicians, they also do austerities, they also do fasting, just for some material gain. But that is not the actual austerity which Krishna is recommending here, Rishabdev is recommending here. Austerities should be for spiritual enlightenment. One time, Srila Prabhupada was in the Vrindavan and he was on a walk. So one of the disciples, he was not wearing any slippers. Prabhupada asked him, "Why are you not wearing slipper?" So this devotee, he was in a Vrindavan mood. He said, "Prabhupada, this is Vrindavan. This is the place where Krishna walked without slippers. Then why should I wear slippers?" Prabhupada said, "There is already enough austerity in the world. Don't add new one." So the austerity which we have to do as devotees is chanting our prescribed attentive rounds. That is the biggest austerity. If you want to do any austerity, that is the austerity which we have to strive for. We have to do chanting our prescribed rounds with all our seriousness, all our attentiveness, keeping aside all the distractions, all our gadgets, trying to follow all the rules and regulations, trying to read Bhagavatam every day. That is the austerity we have to take. Bodily austerity is not meant for Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, only austerity we can do is to chant Hare Krishna, read Bhagavatam, associate with devotees. That is the austerity which in this Kali Yuga, Srila Prabhupada would always recommend. Prabhupada writes, a foolish civilization neglects to teach people how to rise in Bhakti Yoga. And then Prabhupada writes an elaborate description of how a person in Kali Yuga, he travels and he suffers a lot just to go to his workplace and then works there whole day and then comes back in the evening and just he eats few chapatis and then he has some nice wonderful relationship with his wife and then he goes to sleep. For all these hardship, Prabhupada writes, his only happiness is little sex. Yan maithunadi rihamedi sukham tucham kandu yanena karayori vadukkham trapyanti neha kripana bhaudukha bhaja. The happiness which a materialist gets is only a few moments of relationship with the women. So therefore, Prabhupada writes in the purport that one should not strive in this human body for that which is available even in the body of a pig. Sukham aindriyakam daitya dehinam dehiyoginam sarvatra labhyate daivad yatha dukkham ayatnataha. Prahlad Maharaj is telling to his friends, he says, "Oh my friends, the bodily happiness is available in every species of life. Sarvatra labhyate, everywhere, in all the species of life, you will find some happiness. Therefore, one should not endeavor, just like you don't endeavor for happiness, for distress, one should not endeavor for happiness. It will come automatically. Tasyeva heto prayateta kovido na labhyate yad bhramatam uparayadaha tallabhyate dukkhavadanyata sukham kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa. Tasyeva heto, only for that hetu one should endeavor, that which is not available in all the 14 planetary systems. And what is that? That is Krishna consciousness, that is love of God. You may try whole life for material happiness, but that will not stay. And spiritual happiness, if you want to attain, then you have to dedicate your life in chanting, in hearing, in association of devotees. So therefore, Rishabdev is saying human form is not meant for enjoying. It is meant for austerities. And then Rishabdev says, from the human body, either one can get deliverance or one can fall down. This is another famous verse. Mahat sevam dwaram ahur vimukte tamo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam mahantaste samachittah prashanta vimanyavasurid sadhavoye. So here Rishabdev is saying there are two different destinations of different people. Those who are engaged in sense gratification, what is their destination? Those who are serving devotees, what is their destination? Mahat Seva, if somebody serves the devotees of the Lord, then the doors of liberation are wide open. Dwaram ahur vimukteh, and then tamo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam. If somebody associates with women, or for women a man, or persons who are associating with women. So women or men for women, men and women for men, or womenizers. If somebody is associating with these categories of people, tamo dwaram, they will go to hellish destinations. Yoshitam sangi sangam. So therefore one should associate with Mahatmas. Mahantaste samachittaha prashantaha. They are samachitta, they are equal vision, they have equal vision, and they are peaceful. So therefore Prabhupada writes in the purport that there are two types of Mahatmas. There is an impersonalist and a devotee. So Prabhupada writes, although the ultimate goal of these two is different, the process is almost the same. Almost the process is same, but they want different destinations. Both want eternal happiness, but the way they want the eternal happiness is little different. Prasangam ajaram pasham atmanam kavayo viduh sa eva sadhu shukrito mokshadwaram apavritam. Prasangam ajaram pasham. If somebody associates with material things of this world, the bondage increases. But if the same attachment is utilized, dovetailed in associating with devotees, if somebody becomes attached to devotees of the Lord, then the same attachment will purify the living entity. That's why association of devotees is the most important thing in spiritual life. And especially now in this, COVID pandemic, we can see when the devotees, we cannot come together and associate personally, physically. It is a great tapasya to maintain the enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he asks Ramananda Rai, Dukkha madhye kon dukh hoy gurutar? Of all the distresses in the world, which is the biggest distress? Ramananda Rai says, Krishna Bhakta Birah Bina Dukha Nahi Dekhi Par. He says there is no greater distress than to be uh, separated from devotees of the Lord. That is the greatest distress. Krishna Bhakti Janma Mool Hoye Sadhu Sang. Krishna Prema Janmete Ho Punaha Mukhya Ang. Association of devotees is the birthplace of devotion. So if we want devotion in our life, we have to associate with devotees. And then after this, Rishabdev says, among the two types of Mahatmas, impersonalists and the personalists, who is better? He says devotees are better, the personalists are better. And what are the qualities of the personalists? Yeva maishe kritasauridhartha janeshu deham bharavartikeshu griheshu jayat majarati matsu na priti yuktaya vadarthasya loke. So he says, those Yeva Mai, Mai means those who are interested in reviving my consciousness. Rishabdev is Supreme Lord. He is telling that those who are interested in reviving God consciousness, they want to increase the love for God. They do not like to do anything which is not related to Krishna. And what are those things? Janeshu, Deham Bhara Vartikeshu. They are not interested in mingling with people. Those who are just busy in maintaining their body, relatives, friends, property, just engaged in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So these people, these devotees, they are not interested in associating with non-devotees of the Lord. And then what are the other qualities of these devotees? Griheshu jayat majarati matsu na priti yuktaha. They are not attached to even their own family, their own children, their own property, relatives, and everything. That does not mean they are irresponsible. They take care of everything, but they are not attached to it. Na priti yukta yavadarthasya loke. They are not indifferent. At the same time, they execute their duties properly. Such people, they are just interested in keeping the body and the soul together. So that's the difference between a griha medhi and a grihastha. Who is a grihastha? Grihastha means one who keeps Krishna in the center of their home. Griha medhi, medha means intelligence. Ones whose intelligence is just fixed in how to maintain my family, children, property, everything. Householder may earn money, but not for the purpose of sense gratification. Prabhupada was once asked, he was asked, Swamiji, if you are asked to tell one verse which is the essence of whole Bhagavatam, which is that verse? You know what Prabhupada said? Prabhupada quoted first Canto verse. Dharmasya hi apavargasya nartho arthayopakalpate dharmasya dharmaikantasya kamo labhaya hi smritaha. Dharma should be practiced for apavarga. Dharma should be practiced for liberation. Na arthayopakalpate. Dharma should not be practiced for material benefit, not for sense gratification. Kamasya nendriya priti labho jivet yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa. One should engage in material activities so that he can maintain his body. And when one gets money, the money should not be used for sense gratification. That is the purpose of life. And then he says that, you know, those people who are attached to women, you know, as second verse described, Bhat sevam dwaram ahur vimukte tamo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam. Those who are attached to women, what is their destination? Nunam pramattaha kurute vikarma yadindriya pritaya pranoti nasadu manye yadatmanoyam asannapi kleshada asadeha. Nunam pramattaha. This is again a very famous verse Prabhupada must have quoted hundreds of times. pramattaha prakrishta rupena mattaha. Those who are specially mad. Why? Because they are engaged in sense gratification. Those people who are engaged in sense gratification, they are vishishta prakrishta rupena mattaha. And to enjoy kurute vikarma, they engage in all materialistic sinful activities. Why do they do sinful activities? Yad indriya pritaye apranoti, just to enjoy their senses. But nasadhu manye yadatmanoyam. But actually, a living entity who has taken a material body, he should not endeavor for these things. The human form is not awarded for sense gratification because asannapi kleshad ashadeha, because he does not know that his material deeds which he performed in his past life, because of that he has received this body, and this body has become the cause of misery. This body is क्लेश द, क्लेश देने वाला शरीर है ये देह जो है, क्लेश देने के लिए ही बनाया है भगवान ने. That is why Brahmaji has made this. That's why Brahmaji, we discussed in the second canto, Brahmaji was lamenting after creating this human body. Shutritra dhatubhir imam huradyamana shitoshna vat varsha itarittaracha कामाग्निना सकल योनिषु दह्यमान sampashyato mana urukramasidate me. Brahmaji is saying, my mind is troubled. I am lamenting seeing the distressed and miserable condition of living entities. They are troubled by outside situations, they are troubled by inner things. Externally, they are suffering heat and cold and rainy season. Internally, kapha, vata, pitta, it is disturbed. And on the above all this, kamagnina sakalayo nishudahyamana. Every living entity is just burning in the desire for sense gratification. So Prabhupada writes in this purport, begging, borrowing, or stealing to live for sense gratification is condemned in this verse. Begging, borrowing, or stealing. Because such consciousness leads to a dark, hellish condition. So therefore, if sin leads to bondage, then shouldn't one do pious activities? So in this verse, Rishabdev says actually, both sinful activity and pious activity lead to bondage. Then what should I do? Therefore, inquire into the self. Inquire about self-realization. Parabhavasta vadabodha jato yavan jigyasat atma tattvam yavad kriyastavad mano vai karmatmakam yena sharir bandha. Parabhavaha tavad. In this material world, one is defeated again and again. Living entity is defeated again and again in every life. He is subjected to miseries which arise from ignorance. Abodha jataha. Because of the ignorance, a living entity is put into so many miseries. Yavanna jigyasat atma tattvam. Till the time one does not inquire about atma tattva, about the spiritual values of life. Tavad kriyastavad idam mano vai. And as long as the mind is not pure, idam mano vai, till the time mind is not pure, consciousness is not clear, as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, karmatmakam yena sharir bandha, one will engage in fruitive activity, and as the result he will get a human, he'll get a body again and again. So therefore, Rishabdev is saying in this verse, therefore one should start inquiring. Jigyasa, athato brahma jigyasa. Prabhupada in the purport writes that even pious activities lead to suffering, because pious activity leads to another birth where a living entity has to enjoy the results. Both pious or sinful activity should be destroyed by development of jnana. And Prabhupada quotes this fourth chapter 37th verse, Yathaidhamsi samidhognir bhasmasat kurute Arjuna jnanagni sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute stha. So you see, it's just like, the fire burns a wood to ashes. Knowledge burns all the sinful reactions. So therefore, after that, in sixth verse, Rishabdev says, एवं मनः कर्म वशं प्रयुङ्क्ते अविद्ययात्मन्युपधीयमाने प्रीतिर्नव यावन्मयि वासुदेवे न मुच्यते देहयोगेन तावत् evam manah karma vasha. Till the time the mind is in the vasha, it is under the control of fruitive activity. Till the mind does not become a devotee, at present we are staying with the greatest non-devotee, our mind. So Rishabdev is saying, till the time mind is subjugated by fruitive activity, avidyayatmani upathiyamane, and living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance. He does not understand the value of human form. He does not understand the supreme personality of Godhead. Pritirnayavan Maivasudeve. Therefore, until one has not developed love for Vasudev, he will not be free from this body. Namuchyate deha yogena tavat. He will not be freed from this cycle of birth and death. He will not be free from this material body. Chakravarti Thakur writes that how does the mind become absorbed in an action? Evam vasham, evam manah karma vasham. How does the mind becomes controlled by fruitive activities? He says that in this process, because of so many lifetimes of activities, all the impressions are stored in the mind, and mind becomes fixed in the fruitive activity. So actually mind is not a conscious entity. Mind is like a software, and we have programmed that software. In so many lifetimes we have desired to enjoy sense gratification, we have desired to enjoy this material world, and as a result we have trained our mind to think in that way. Therefore, as Bhagavad Gita very nicely says, controlled mind is the best friend, uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy. What is the uncontrolled mind? Subhashita describes a verse. Markatasya surapanam madhye vrishchikadansanam tanmadhye bhuta sancharo yadva tadva bhavishyati. What is the condition of a uncontrolled mind? All of us must have experienced the monkeys of Vrindavan. So very peaceful they are, They are so very restless, they cannot sit at one place. So markatasya, and then on top of them you give some liquor to markata. Bandar ko thoda sa whiskey pilai jaye, So then markatasya surapanam, and then after that, after drinking liquor, the markata, the bandar, is bitten by a scorpion. Madhye vrishchika danshanam, then what will be the condition of that monkey? That is not enough. Tan madhye bhuta samcharo, and then he is haunted by ghost. Then who can understand the movements of the mind? Monkey. That is our mind. Uncontrolled mind is like that monkey which is drunk, which is bitten by scorpion, and then haunted by ghost. We cannot imagine what our mind can think, what impressions mind will project, where our mind will go. So therefore, what is the way out? Way out is when we take shelter of the holy names of the Lord consistently, every day, regularly, without any interruption. Ahetuti apratihata. Then, as Nectar of Instruction says, Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtanano Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyujya Tishthan Braje Tadanuragi Jananugami Kalam Naid Akhilam Iti Upadesh Saram. Rupa Goswami says, what is the essence of all the scriptures? We have to engage our mind in Nama, Rupa, Charita, Sukirtananu. We have to engage our mind in the name, form, pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Then slowly our mind will start accepting the process of Krishna consciousness. And then he says, Rishabdev says, to be a devotee, one must be free from all the material desires. So in the 7th verse he says, if he does not understand that endeavor for sense gratification is a useless waste of time, then even though one may be very learned, you know, even though if somebody is very learned, wise in material world, but if he does not understand that sense gratification is a useless thing, it is just a waste of time, then what is his position? He is like a mad person, because he does not know what is his own interest, and he centers his whole life around Maithunya Agar. His life is centered around home, which is based on sexual intercourse. And in this way, he is no better than an animal. And Prabhupada, in the purport, he describes all these things. He says, influence of Maya is so strong that even a person engaged in Krishna consciousness, in knowledge, actually forgets that he is Krishna's eternal servant if he is overcome by the influence of Maya. So Bhagavatam condemns human form of life if it is not used for self-realization. Nivritta tarshay rupagiyamana bhavaushadha shrotra manobhirama kaho uttama shloka gunanuvada puman virajyet vinapashubhnat. If a human form of life is not used for Krishna consciousness, he is no better than an animal. Only an animal will not take to Krishna consciousness. So somebody may ask, why is Maithun? Why sex life is so very condemned? Then the famous verse again comes where Rishabdev describes why this attraction between male and female is condemned so much. Pumsah istriya maithuni bhavametat tayor mithah hridaya grantimahu ato griha kshetra sutta apta vittai janasya mohoyam aham mameti. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of human existence, material existence. Pumsaha striya maithuna. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. Because of this interaction, of this attraction, tayor mitha hridaya granthi, the hridaya granthi, the knot in the heart, becomes very, very strong. And based on that knot, what happens? What comes out? Griha, Kshetra, Sutta, Apta, and Vittaha. When a person gets married, then he needs a home, and then he needs to take care of the home by acquiring more and more property. Then children will come, relatives will come, more and more wealth will come, and the result will be Janasya mohoyam aham mameti. And in this way, the illusion of material life increases in terms of I and mine, aham and mama. So Chakravarti Thakur analyzes what is this Hridaya Granthi. He says there are two knots which are tied between male and female, between a husband and a wife. There are two knots. One knot is husband thinks this is my wife. The second knot is wife thinks this is my husband. So Chakravarti Thakur says even if one person wants to give up that misconception, other person will not allow him to give up that misconception. That is the depth of the knot. So he says then knot between father and son is also tied. Then all the other things, persons which are related to the body. He says if one is not attracted to family but identifies with the possessions, this is my cloth, this is my car, this is my utensil, or this is my chair, this is my phone, that bondage is not so great, because this is one-sided. You are attached to phone. Phone is not attached to you. You are attached to your home. Home is not attached to you. But when you are attached to a person, either a husband or a wife, there is a mutual knot which is there in the heart. And then one falls into illusion. This is my wife. This is my husband. So that is very strong knot. Then somebody must, then how will the liberation take place? When does that liberation take place? Then Rishabdev says, when one gets liberation. He says, when the strong knot in the heart, yada mano hridaya granthi, when the hard knot which is there in the heart, that is cut, that is slackened, then one turns away his attachment from all these things, home, wife, children. In this way, one gives up the basic principle of illusion, that is I and mine. And then the liberation and entrance into the spiritual world is possible. So basically, the knot in the heart should be slackened. But the next question is, how is that not slackened? So in the 10 to 14 verses, Rishabdev describes the process of attaining liberation. He says, so in the 4 verses, he gives 25 processes to destroy ahankar, the false ego, which is a basic principle, the initial knot, that is false ego. So in the 4 verses, Rishabdev gives 25 processes which can destroy the basic illusion and help one to attain liberation. So he says, Hamsai Gurau Mai Bhaktyanuvritya Vitrishnaya Dvandya cha Sarvatra Janto Vyasanavagatya Jigyasaya Tapaseha Vinivritya. He says, Hamsai Gurau Mai. First is one has to follow a guru with devotion. Secondly, Vitrishna. Vitrishna means one has to become detached from sense gratification. Thirdly, one has to tolerate the dualities of the life. Vritrishnaya Dvandva Tikshaya. He has to tolerate the dualities of material pain and pleasure. Sarvatra Jantoh Vyasanavagatva. Then he should realize that material condition of the living entity is always miserable. Even in the highest planetary system, the condition is miserable. And then jigyasa. He has to inquire about the philosophical truth. He has to engage in tapasya, all for the sake of devotional service. Mat karma vir mat kathaya cha nityam mad deva sangad gunakirtanan me nirvair shamyopasamena putra jihasaya deha gehatma buddhi. So he says, one has to listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mat karma, mat katha, because he is a Supreme Lord. So he's saying that one has to hear about the Supreme Lord. Second and next, what he has to do? Mad deva sangat. He has to associate with my devotees. Gun kirtanan me, chant my glories. Glorify the Supreme Lord. Nirvaira, be free from envy. Samyopashamen, see everyone with equal vision. Give up enmity. And then jihasaya deha gehatma buddhi. Abandon the identification with the self. And then what he has to do? He says, Adhyatma yogena vivikta sevaya pranendriyatma bhijayena sadrak sashraddhaya brahmacharyena sashvat asampramadena yamena vacham. Adhyatma yogena, he has to practice studying of the scriptures. Vivikta sevaya, live in a secluded place. Then practice the process by which one can control the mind and the senses and the life air. Have full faith in the scriptures and all the Vedic scriptures. Maintain celibacy and perform your prescribed duties. Avoid unnecessary talks. And then he says what he has to think about. Sarvatra madbhava vichakshanena jnanena vijnana virajitena yogena dhrityudyama sattva yukto lingam vyapohet kushalo hamakhyam. He says, always thinking of Supreme Lord. Sarvatra madbhava. Wherever you see, you should see me. Then he has to attain knowledge from the right source. Practice bhakti yoga. In this way, you'll be able to give up the false ego. So therefore, this is the whole process of becoming liberated. And then he says the result will be you'll be freed from the ignorance, and the knot of bondage in the heart will be destroyed. Then after that, Rishabdev, he describes the qualities of a leader. What is the responsibility of a leader? And a very beautiful verse, 15th verse, Rishabdev says, a guru, a father, or a king, if he desires to go back to the spiritual world, he should consider that only by mercy of the Lord I can attain the highest destination. And then, a very important thing he says, he should instruct his dependents, just like son or a student or a citizen, without becoming angry. This is very important. If some of the subordinate is not following what the superior is saying, he should not become angry at that person. Although if somebody is incompetent, the father tells son, okay, you do this, you should study in this way, and the son does not study properly, one should not become angry because of the incompetency. And secondly, he should never engage the subordinates in the karmic activities. And he says that this is like throwing somebody who is a blind person in a well. The person is already blind and you are throwing that person in a well. That is same thing if somebody tells a subordinate person to engage in sinful or a karmic activity. So in short, in essence, Rishabdev is saying that you should all follow a very, very high standard of religious life. Yad yad acharati shrestha tatta deve tarojana sayat pramanam kurte lokas tadanvartate. Whatever you will do, my sons, everybody will follow. So that is the purpose. Why Krishna allows all the saintly kings to become saintly people to become kings? Because when a devotee becomes a king, he will maintain the family, he will maintain the citizens' whole kingdom in such a way that they will become Krishna conscious. That's why Yudhishthir Maharaj, when he became the king, Krishna was so very happy. Abhipala dharma raja pitrivat ranjayan praja nispriya sarva kamebhyo Krishna pada anusevaya. He was maintaining his citizens just like his own children. Why he was able to do all that? Krishna padanu sevaya. He was engaged in serving the Supreme Lord Krishna. So that's why Rishabdev is saying you should lead your life in such a way that your dependents become Krishna conscious. And then he says that those people who are ignorant, they do not know self-realization. They have lost their the sight, they have lost their vision because they are bound to material enjoyment. They are so very lusty. They will create a society of envy in exchange for little happiness. People in this world, just for being little happy, just for being happy for a moment, they are ready to do anything. And when they make others miserable, they are more happy. There was an advertisement, neighbors envy, owners pride. If some other person is envious of your achievement, then you will become more happy. So therefore Rishabdev says these people, they do not realize that they are actually suffering. Their suffering is unending because they are more and more engaging in sense gratification. And the result will be yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. They will become more and more engaged in miserable life. Suffering will become more and more. So therefore, a person who is a superior should never engage a person in a wrong path. But what if a superior engages a person in the wrong path? Then Rishabdev says, then he is not supposed to remain a superior. Guru na sasyat, swajano na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, daivam na tatsyan, na patischa tasyan, namo chayedya samupet mrityam. So this is another famous verse which Srila Prabhupada would quote many times. If a person is not able to deliver his subordinates, he should not become a teacher. He should not become a father or a mother or a worshipable master or a husband. Namo chayedya. If somebody cannot deliver the subordinates from the path of birth and death, he should not become a superior person. And Chakravarti Thakur gives a list of people who gave up the superiors, who rejected the superiors. Bali Maharaj rejected his spiritual master, Shukracharya, because he was not showing the path of Vishnu. Vibhishana rejected his brother, Ravana, Swajana. Prahlad, he rejected his own father, Hiranyakashipu, Pita. Bharat Maharaj, Bharat is the son of Kaikai. He rejected his mother because she was not bringing him close to Ram. Khatwanga, we heard the story of Khatwang Maharaj in the second canto. He gave up all the devatas, Daivam, because all the devatas, they said you have only few moments remaining. So he gave up all of them. He came down on earth. He meditated on the Supreme Lord. And then the wives of the Brahmanas, they rejected their husbands. So this is how, if somebody is not favorable for Krishna consciousness, then that relative should be given up. Then after this, the sons of Rishabdev, they might ask, where is the Lord to whom we should perform bhakti? Where is the devotee to whom we should serve? Because we have told in the second verse, Mahat Seva Dwaram, you should serve the superior devotee. And then you are saying you have to serve the Supreme Lord. So where is that Lord? Where is that devotee? So Rishabdev declares in the 19th verse that I am that Supreme Lord. He says, Idam shariram mama durvibhavyam sattvam hi me hridayam yatra dharmaha prashthe krito me yada dharma arad ato himam rishabham prahurarya. In the 19th verse, Rishabdev says, Idam shariram, my transcendental body is durvibhavyam, inconceivable. My heart is the seat of all the good qualities, and dharma resides in my heart. I have destroyed all the non-devotional or adharmic activities. Therefore, people, they call me Rishabha. And Prabhupada in the purport focuses on this verse, this line, Idam shariram mama durvibhavyam. And he says that Mayavadi philosophers, they are completely unable to conceive of a spiritual body. So Prabhupada was very much against Mayavadis and scientists. In the initial days, when Prabhupada would be very heavy on Mayavadis, so all the initial devotees, they would think that maybe, these people, they have done something bad to Prabhupada. That's why Prabhupada is very angry. So therefore, but Prabhupada was not angry because of himself. They did not do anything to him because they offended the Supreme Lord's form. Mayavadis, they reject the form of the Lord. That's why Prabhupada, as a pure devotee, could not tolerate that. And then he says, who is that Mahata? Who is that great personality, devotee? That is your eldest brother. That is Bharata. Tasmad bhavanto hridayena jataha. O my sons, you all are born from my heart. You are all the seat of, with my heart is the seat of all the spiritual qualities. You are born from my heart. Therefore, you should not be like a materialistic or envious person, except your elder brother Bharata. He is a very exalted person in devotional service, and engage yourself in service of Bharata. And then Rishabdev, in order to teach all his sons, he describes Brahmanas to be the best. And from 20 to 25 verses, he describes the glories of the Brahmanas. So in 21 and 22 verses, he describes there is a gradation of living entities, and he establishes the superiority of Brahmanas. And then he says, because I am inclined to Brahmanas, the Brahmanas are the best of all. And therefore, Supreme Lord, Prabhupada writes, Supreme Lord is called Brahmanya Deva. Brahmanya Deva means he is the master of all the Brahmanas. And then he says, Rishabdev says, actually, I eat through Brahmanas' mouths. Brahmanas are very, very dear to me, and I derive more pleasure if food is offered to Brahmanas. If something is offered directly to me in sacrifice, I do not relish that much. But if somebody offers food to a Brahmana, I relish more through the mouth of a Brahmana. And in fact, he says, these Brahmanas, they support my body in the form of the Vedas. And he describes the 8 qualities of a Brahmana. He says that the Brahmanas, they are situated in all the transcendental qualities. They are in the mode of Sattva, Guna. They are fixed in mind control. They are sense controlled. They are truthful, merciful, austere, tolerant, and they are self-realized. So then, after that, Rishabdev says, you know who are the most perfect Brahmanas? They are the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas, they are the most perfect Brahmanas because they don't have any material aspirations. Their only desire is to serve me. So this is the 25th verse where Rishabdev is saying, the Vaishnavas, they do not seek any material comforts. They are just engaged in serving me. They simply engage in my devotional service, my bhakti bhaja. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada quotes one verse. Brahmananam sahasrebhya satrayaji vishishyate satrayaji sahasrebhya sarva vedanta paragah sarva vedanta vitkotya vishnu bhakta vishishyate vaishnavanam sahasrebhya ekantyeko vishishyate. He says, Brahmananam sahasrebhya, out of thousands and thousands of Brahmanas, satrayaji vishishyate, one who can do yajna, he is best. Satrayaji sahasrebhya, out of thousands who can do yajna. Sarva Vedanta Paraga, one who can study Vedanta, he is the best. Sarva Vedanta Vitkotya Vishnu Bhakta Vishishyate, out of thousands of those who can study Vedanta, Vishnu Bhakta is the best. Vaishnavanam Sahasrebhya Ekantyeko Vishishyate. And you know who is the best among all the Vaishnavas? Who worships Krishna. So that's how Vaishnavas are the supreme. And amongst Vaishnavas, the devotees of Lord Krishna, they are most supreme, supreme most. And therefore, he says, devotees, they have no desire. They are akinchana. They are akinchananam. Why they are akinchana? It is not that devotees are poor, they do not have anything. No. Akinchana does not mean do not have any possessions. As Kunti Maharani says, Janma Aishwarya Shruta Shribhir Edamana Madapuma Nevarhatya Bidhatum Vaitam Akinchana Gochara. She says, you are Akinchana Gochara. You are perceived only by Akinchana. What is that Akinchana? Akinchana means you do not have those people, those devotees who do not have possessive mentality. Amito tomar, tumito amar, ki kaj apare dhane. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I am yours, O my Lord. My body is yours. My family, my everything is for you, O my Lord. That is a kinchana. And then Rishabdev says, worship of the Brahmanas is the best, but you should also respect all the living entities. And therefore, in the next two verses, 26 and 27 verses, he describes how one should engage, one should respect all the living entities and engage them in my service, engage them in devotional service. And how you should worship me? By engaging your mind, body, words, and your senses in my devotional service. Because without serving me, Rishabdev says, one cannot get out of the material existence. You know, so that is what Rishabdev says. And Prabhupada writes, Prabhupada quotes this verse, Sarvopadhi vinirtam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. One should engage all his senses in the service of the Lord. Now Ganpati season is going on, So what is the famous shloka which is sung in Ganpati Arati? That is the summum bonum of devotional activity. Kayena vacha manasa indriyerva buddhyatmana va nrisitasya bhava karoti yadyada sakalam parasmai narayanatyeti samarpayami. That is a devotional service. Kayena, vacha, manasa, indriya, buddhi. With my body, mind, words, senses, intelligence. Buddhyatmana va nrusita swabhava karoti yadyada sakalam parasmai. Whatever activities I am doing, narayanatyeti samarpayetat. One should offer to Krishna. Unless things are offered to Krishna, they will not give any benefit. Even if you do big things, it will all be useless. It will all be shrama evahi kevalam. If things are not offered to Krishna, you will not get any benefit. Shukdev Goswami describes in his prayers in the second canto, tapasvino dana paraya shashvino manasvino mantra vidosu mangalah Shemam navindanti vinaya darpanam tasmai subhadra shravase namo namaha. He says, if somebody is a tapasvi, danapara, charitable, yashashvi, very famous person, manasvi, a scholar, a thinker, mantravidaha, expert in reciting mantras, sumangala, these are all auspicious. Shemam na vindanti, they will not attain highest benefit if vinaya darpanam, if you don't offer it to Krishna. So therefore, after this, Rishabdev, he gave all the instructions to all his sons, and then just to set a right example, he did all the duties very nicely, and then after ruling the kingdom for a long time, he gave up that kingdom to his son Bharat. Bharat was a topmost devotee, and he was a follower of Vaishnavas, Bhagavat Jana Parayan. That was Bharat Maharaj. And then Rishabdev, although he was still staying at the home, but now what Rishabdev did was really unimaginable. He behaved like a madman. Even at the home, he would stay naked. Then, after he stayed at home for some time in this way, and then he left home. And he started touring the world like a avadhuta. So Rishabdev remained as a avadhuta for some time. And what is a avadhuta? Avadhuta means a saintly person who did not care for anything material. So he acted like a dull, blind, deaf, and dumb, a person who is haunted by a ghost or a madman. He took a vow of silence. He would not speak anything. He would not respond to people. He was just roaming around. And if somebody is wandering in this way, people would naturally, they would insult, they would do all sorts of wrong things. But he remained indifferent like an elephant who is surrounded by the flies. So Rishabdev, he was threatened. Many times he was beaten. Many times he was urinated on. Somebody would spit at him. Some people would sometimes throw stones at him. They would sometimes throw stool. They would throw dust. They would pass foul air on him. But still, Rishabdev, he was completely absorbed in his own glory. Swamahima avasthanena. He did not care for any of the material insults. And then Rishabdev's beauty is described by Shukdev Goswami. So Shukdev Goswami, he says that Rishabdev, his hands, feet, chest, shoulders, and all the limbs are very beautiful, well placed, and he had a beautiful face. He had a beautiful eyes, which was very pleasing, and his forehead, ears, nose, neck, all the bodily features are very well defined. And when he would smile, he would look so very beautiful that he would attract the hearts of women. He had a curly hair. Although he appeared like a madman who was haunted by a ghost, but still he was very beautiful. After some time of behaving in this way, people, they started becoming agnostic. So then he accepted Ajgar Vritti. Ajgar Vritti means the behavior of a python. So behavior of a python means he would not move from a place. Python does not move so much. He would just open the mouth. Many times animals would walk in. He would not move much. So this Rishabdev, he followed Ajgar Vritti. He remained at one place. He would eat, sleep, and he would even drink, urinate, and even he would pass stool at the same place. And he would roll in his own stool and urine so that people would not come near him. So somebody may think, oh my God, this is disgusting. How can a Supreme Lord do this? But next verse describes how Rishabdev was on a transcendental position. He was Supreme Lord. So his stool and urine, although he was rolling in that, it filled 80 miles of space with aromas, very nice, pleasant fragrance. That is the glory of stool and urine of Rishabdev. It was fragrant. So somebody may say, how is this possible? If a cow's dung and cow urine is so very auspicious, then why Supreme Lord, when he comes, why Supreme Lord's stool and urine cannot be fragrant? So that is the difference between Supreme Lord and any ordinary person. Then Shukdev Goswami says that although Rishabdev had all the Ashta Siddhis, he had all the Siddhis, but he did not display them. He was completely absorbed in his meditation on himself. And he would show how a transcendentalist, if he is a avadhuta, how he should behave. He would sometimes cry, laugh. He was like a madman, always in ecstasy of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Lord's love. Evam vrataswa priyanama kirtya jatanurago drutachitta uच्चैः hasatyatha raudati rauti gayat unmadvan nrityati lokabahya. That is the position of a devotee who is mad in ecstasy. He is sometimes chanting loudly, sometimes crying, sometimes laughing, and he is always absorbed in Supreme Lord's glories. So then Shukdev Goswami says that he had all the ability, he had all the mystic powers. He could fly, he could appear or disappear, he could enter in the bodies of the others, Parakaya Pravesh, he could get anything from anywhere, but still he did not use all these mystic powers. That was Rishabdev. And then what were the activities of Rishabdev? That is the next chapter that we'll do tomorrow. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So there are a few questions. Is Jainism came from Rishabdev? We'll discuss tomorrow. It will come in the next chapter. Elder son of Rishabdev, Bharat Maharaj, was he came in the vansh of Pandavas or Kauravas. Okay, so that dynasty we will discuss later, from where the Pandavas and the Kauravas they came. So that is there. That will come in few classes. It is there. We'll discuss in few days. Okay. Any other questions anybody has? Okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai.